The blue and white overpower the Blue Hens at Beaver Stadium. Over 100 points in their first 2 games, Drew Aller's play at quarterback has impressed one of the top voices in college football.
He was accurate, he was sharp, he knew where he wanted to go with the football.
Now it's time to hit the road and open up play in the Big Ten.
You know, it's a business trip, so we're going to treat it like that.
The 7th-ranked team in the country is all business. They certainly would take great pleasure in beating a team that upset them in 9 overtimes 2 years ago. Nittany Game Week starts now. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions assistant coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. First ever meeting with the Blue Hens goes as expected, provides playing time to a lot of the guys who don't normally get in the game. How much time do you guys spend as assistant coaches breaking down that particular game before you move forward?
Well, I think the one thing you want to try and do is the guys that got in the game, you want to coach them as though they were frontline guys. So they feel, it gives them a sense of importance. But again, you got to move on to the next one.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. They want to be coached.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be points for the younger guys, and they want to get better. So they want you to take the time to critique them every chance you get, and it helps you know that, hey, you're important to this team. It's one play away.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to keep everybody moving forward and progressing and getting better. So they cross the Delaware in week 2. Which players shine and what the Nittany Lions gained from the blowout victory in our opening drive. They take to the ground in this one to overpower the Blue Hens on offense. 6 rushing TDs, 3 visits to the end zone for Nick Singleton, 1 each for Katron Allen, Drew Aller, and backup QB Bo Prabula. So over 42 minutes of time of possession, they really grounded this one out.
Really grounded out. Very workmanlike. Not a lot of big explosive plays, though, which I think is something that may be a slight cause for concern, because you want to see those backs when they get in the secondary go the distance, especially against Delaware.
Yeah, but I think a lot of it had to do with Delaware's defense, the way they were playing. They were packing the box a lot and not going to allow them to make the big run play. Anytime
you get anywhere near 60 carries, that's a kind of a game plan built for the offensive line.
I'm a run the damn ball type of guy, so I had a fun week this week. I like hitting, like one-on-one, or I know exactly who I'm going to. Like, those are my favorite kind of blocks. So it was a whole week of practice for that. So I had a great time in practice, and then we get out to the game and, do everything to a high level. So it was amazing.
Yeah, 60 carries, total of 315 rushing yards over 42 minutes time of possession. Aller and Prabula each had 1 passing touchdown as well.
One of the benefits, though, Tom, is certainly getting deep in the depth chart, getting a lot of guys action, and that's important.
They put all this time in off-season, winter, spring, summer, work. It's a chance for them to get in the game, and they want to compete too.
Yeah, perhaps the player who benefits the most from the early season blowout is the backup QB, Bo Prabula, the redshirt freshman, versatile athlete, unprompted. Coach Franklin makes sure to mention Bo's performance and what it means for opponents going forward.
People are watching that saying, we got to prepare for this guy, because now you start to mix. Now that Bo has shown what he can do, now you start to mix Bo in a drive or for a couple series in a game, and you got to spend a ton of time on preparing for that. So that's exciting for us as well.
A savvy move from Coach Franklin. He's speaking directly to the defensive coordinators, Tom, on the teams remaining on Penn State's schedule.
Yes, he was. He's setting them up, saying, hey, we have some other things in our arsenal you better prepare for, which makes you play ghost and waste time on what other things you could be prepared for.
And he's just very different than Drew Aller and
yes.
as far as his skill set. Now, you want to give your opponent plenty to think about. We've mentioned this was the first ever meeting between Penn State and Delaware. One of the really cool things we witnessed was the Blue Hens and how much they appreciated the opportunity to play in one of the iconic college football venues, Beaver Stadium.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great situation. Having a big coach at that level when UConn was a 1AA team in JMU, we didn't get to play in those kind of venues. So an opportunity like that would have been great for our players.
And we caught up with a Central Pennsylvania native and Delaware captain, Brock Gingrich, number 55, after the game. He'll always remember this chance to play against the Nittany Lions in Beaver Stadium.
In Beaver Stadium, unbelievable place. Thought we showed a lot of heart out there. We showed a lot of passion and fight. Wish we would have been a little bit more consistent through 4 quarters. Being from PA, Penn State's the big dog, and being able to play them today was just an honor. Appreciate the opportunity we had.
And check out the t-shirt to support Brock. Big body Brock. Parents and friends enjoyed the opportunity to tailgate outside of the stadium before the game. 27 Delaware players on the roster from Pennsylvania, others from PSU recruiting territories. Big moment in their careers to play in Happy Valley. Well, it is a small sample size and much tougher competition lies ahead. First-year starting QB Drew Aller continues to show off his physical skills and make intelligent decisions. Let's send it to Andrew Callista, who's among the many impressed by his offensive acumen.
All right, guys, don't blow me up here for this take. Through 2 games, Drew Aller is not pushing for the deep ball downfield, and I'm here to say it's a good thing. This is what I see at field level from number 15, and I absolutely love it. First, yes, I am aware of the deep balls to Keandre Lambert-Smith against West Virginia. What I see more often than not is a young quarterback with great arm talent get through his progressions. He's not afraid to go to his 4th look. I have seen it multiple times. Drew keeps the offense on schedule and doesn't force a deep shot. This is not surprising to his teammates.
His confidence is crazy. Like, he's never wavered. Like, he never had, like, you know, moments in his shell. You know, like, he was always Drew.
And it's not only the offensive side of the ball that notices, but the secondary when they go against him in practice.
He makes it hard for you, you know, because, you know, obviously you want to fire around, get turnovers. And, you know, even when you try and bait him, he still might have that brand. He's really smart.
This is so impressive for a young quarterback with arm talent to watch him go through his reads. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. Don't confuse this for being a negative label or the dreaded manager tag. Drew is taking what the defense has given him so far. Just 1 pass over 20 yards downfield, and I cannot recall a ball in a double coverage yet. And as the season goes on, everything here is going to open up more vertical throws for number 15 to make as the games get more important, and that is a very good thing.
Thank you, Andrew. Still to come, our coaches do what they do best. They're breaking down the Illinois film, why they think the Nittany Lions defensive line can feast and pile up some sacks. That's in our scouting report next.
Opening Drive is sponsored by your local Ford store. Visit buyfordnow.com today.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. Stop me if you've heard this before. Penn State's Big Ten Conference opener is on the road. It's the 8th consecutive year, now 13 of the last 14 seasons. First stop, Champaign, Illinois, to face the Illini. Let's send it to our offensive and defensive coordinators on the program as the Nittany Lions take their show on the road.
Thanks, Todd. And on the road we do go, and let's start with Illinois' offense. As we look at it, not great numbers, 26.5 points a game, but 6.1 yards per play, which is 4th in the Big Ten. So they do make some plays. Now let's talk about who we want to keep our eye on as we look at talent. Luke Altmaier, transfer quarterback from Ole Miss, highly recruited coming out, has the run and pass ability. The 2 running backs are really good. Rodney McCray, Penn Staters, remember from the 9 overtime game, had 142 yards. The freshman sat out last year. Isaiah Williams we'll talk about in a second. Let's talk about schematically. They have had trouble with pass rush, Tom, giving up 8 sacks in the first 2 games. They keep their tight end in, they'll keep the running back in, and that forces them to hold the ball up and take a look at that's a problem, right?
And one of the things is those sacks have come from just 4-man pressures. It's not like they're bringing extra people, and that's one of the things that really is going to be a problem for them in this game.
Yeah, Penn State will be able to gang up on those receivers if they keep people in to protect. Let's talk about the run what the quarterback gives you in the run game. Now, because of his ability to run, now you've got the zone read, which now gives them numbers in the box to block. This guy's unblocked, Tom. How much of a challenge is that for him?
Well, that's going to be the first big time that Penn State's faced a guy like this that can do all those different things, and he's pretty good at it. As you're going to watch, that he's really good with his feet.
Yeah, as soon as that end closes, he pulls it and goes. And again, Garrett Green at West Virginia gave him some problems in that too. So let's keep an eye on that. Now, next thing we want to move on to now is what they do with Isaiah Williams. We talked about him. Keep an eye on him Saturday. He's recruited as a quarterback. He's played quarterback. He's played running back. He's played wideout. Here's a wideout screen to try and get in the ball. They're trying to be really creative getting him the football, Tom. Here's the tunnel screen that I know you love seeing when you blitz.
Yeah, I love the tunnel screen, especially when you got a great athlete like number 1 getting the ball in his hands. And I look for this game to be a spread game. I look for it to be a spread out game because I don't think they can handle Penn State 11 on 11. but I think they'll find a spot to get him one-on-one.
Okay, let's turn over to the defensive side of the ball. Last year was one of the top 5-10 defenses in the country. They had 24 interceptions last year, as you see at the bottom. That's not been the case this year. They're even in turnover margin, giving up a lot of points. But the quarterbacks they have played so far have all been running guys. So let's take a look at guys to keep an eye on. The two inside guys call themselves the law firm of Newton and Randolph. Newton was a second-team All-American last year as a defensive tackle. Really good players, both those guys. In the secondary, all new. Scott Miles at safety is in his first year as a defensive back. Look for Penn State to take advantage of that. We talked about this veteran defensive line. You're going to see later in film how good they are with their hands. A lot of man-to-man, Tom. And where is that free safety over there? He's in the next zip code. He's not even out there 20 yards deep, so he's not a factor.
As you know, I'm not a big fan of that because you can't disguise with him back there. Everything's given away.
So let's take a look at what that means in terms of what they got to do. Here's a linebacker on a running back. Look for Penn State to get their running backs involved in the pass game. Also, maybe look for some wildcat because that's a problem for that kind of coverage. Let's go to the next one and take a look at now. Again, with its good guys inside, you'll see on this tape, they're really good with their hands. They get there. But if the quarterback can extend the play and throw downfield, that's a big problem for them in all the man-to-man. And if you look at this, Tom, shades of Drew Aller against West Virginia extending plays.
Exactly. And one of the things you made a great point on is eyes gone, quarterback can run the ball. And you know what that does when you get into that man free, and there could be some big plays.
Yeah, a lot of one-on-ones. Last one here before we go. Just, again, a lot of man-to-man, motion adjustments, pick up the blitz and make plays, and that's going to be important. Take a look at that video there, too. Get those guys coming inside. The running back does a good job. Offensive lineman does a good job. And the quarterback gets loose. As you just mentioned, that's a problem.
Yes, when you don't have 11 eyes on the ball, that can be a big problem.
Yep, and hopefully a lot of problems for Illinois' defense and offense on Saturday.
No one wants to see another 9 overtimes between these two teams like the last meeting in 2021. And while the Nittany Lions always enjoy a large home field advantage with their massive crowds, they're excited and ready for road trip number 1.
I love playing on the road. You know, those games are the funnest. You know, be able to quiet a crowd, and you know, we're excited for the opportunity, be the first away game. So you know, we're always excited, and we have the same mentality going into this week in preparation and all that.
I love road games. I'm excited to get on the road at Illinois. They're a good program, and you know, it's just different when you go on the road and you're traveling. It's a business trip, so we're gonna treat it like that.
It's a big noon kickoff on Fox this weekend. We'll see if the Nittany Lions can get a good jump start in the Big Ten. Up next, our Impact interview. He guided the Nittany Lions to a national championship at quarterback and is one of the top broadcasters in college football. What's impressed Todd Blackledge about the Nittany Lions in the first 2 games? And don't forget to show us your pride by submitting your Nittany Game Week Pride picks on our website. Could be at the tailgate or rooting on the blue and white from home. The kids, the pets, we want to see them cheering on the Nittany Lions. Send us your pride picks at NittanyGameWeek.com.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. It's time for our Impact interview, and this week's guest is NBC sports analyst Todd Blackledge. And Todd, I think you'll appreciate this reference, and I'll give Jay credit for the research, the crack research staff. You are now our Steve Martin to Saturday Night Live, our first 3-time guest. So I'm not sure that's a good thing.
You got it.
But that's your new title, that's your new thing, along with all the other things that you have. So, you know, academic All-American, national championship quarterback, 3-time guest of Nittany Game Week. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Hopefully it's not just an old thing, you know. I'm glad to be here again.
Yeah, awesome. It's great to have you. So, look, you got a first look at Penn State this year, under the lights, a really great atmosphere with West Virginia, and that look included the new starting quarterback, sophomore Drew Aller. So give us your impressions of the quarterback play. Obviously, you know, you're familiar with the environment, so we know that was terrific. But how do you think Drew has responded and looked in those first 2 weeks?
Well, you know, first of all, I thought that I'm not sure he could have played any much better in week 1, you know, I mean, and done more, you know, to just kind of introduce himself, you know, really as a starting quarterback. He was accurate. He was sharp. He knew where he wanted to go with the football. There was only one throw that he put the ball kind of in harm's way, and that was just because it was late. I mean, he knew where he wanted to go. He was just late throwing, almost got picked off in the end zone. But I thought he looked great, and, I give a lot of credit to James and his staff for what they did with him last year, and not only taking him on the road, but playing him in a lot of games. And, certainly a lot of that was mop-up duty, but there were times in the Purdue game, in the opener he played, where the game was still on the line. He played at Michigan. He played in some places. And so I don't think the stage was too big for him in that opening week. I could just look in his eyes, even on camera, and see that he felt pretty good about where he was at. So I thought he did great. Obviously, having the running game that they have is a big advantage for any quarterback. I mean, that was my best friend when I was playing, was having a great running game. And so it just sets up so much of everything else you want to do offensively. So I thought he got off to a great start, and then, didn't have to do as much last week. And now from this point on, there'll be more, in front of him for him to do. But I think he's up for it.
Todd, while it's still early yet, it seems like, this Big Ten is going to be wide open. You look at Penn State's schedule now, there's 2 interim head coaches on their schedule, most likely. They've got Michigan at home. Ohio State does not appear to be the same offensively they've been. Is this a year that Penn State now can sneak in and run away with this thing and take the Big Ten title?
Well, I don't know about sneak in and run away. I mean, I think that they can certainly, have a chance to make their claim this year. Now, I think that, it still has to be done on the field, right? And I don't think they have to beat both of those teams, but they have to beat one of them. And I think, maybe they match up a little better with Ohio State, because I think Ohio State is a little more finesse and Michigan's a little more power. But the other side of that is they play Michigan at home and they play Ohio State on the road. So, but I think from a roster standpoint, talent standpoint, I think Penn State lines up really well with both of them. They just got to figure out a way to win. And so I think if the quarterback continues to play the way he is, if their receiving core, outside of Keandre Lambert-Smith, if some other guys begin to emerge and step up, more consistently, I certainly think they have the team that's capable of winning the Big Ten championship and ultimately getting to the college football playoff.
Hey, Todd, Penn State came in with a lot of hype on defense this year. How do you got to see them live? How did you like them when you watched them, and how do you compare them to some of the other teams in the Big Ten's defenses?
Yeah, I like them. I mean, I think they've got depth. I think they got length, speed. I think that really last year they got exposed and kind of embarrassed up in Michigan and gave up over 400 yards rushing. And some of that was just getting manhandled. Some of it was just, not being in the right place. Some of it was guys trying to do too much. But after that game, I thought their defense really settled in under Manny Diaz, and they played really well down the stretch. So I think they picked up where they left off a year ago and are a very solid defense. The one area of their defense that I wouldn't say it's concerning, but it's maybe not as strong or dominant as the other areas, is just the interior of their defense in their defensive tackle position. I mean, I think they got good players there, but they're not the biggest guys. I think their edge guys are great. I think their 3 linebackers, are all 230, 240-pound guys that can play. And even though they lost 2 guys in their secondary to the NFL, I think their secondary is still outstanding.
Always enjoy catching up with one of the premier voices of college football. We're going to step aside for the TV show to take a break. We will continue our interview with Todd Blackledge, so if you want to see the entire conversation, you're going to have to go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire interview, along with other web-exclusive content. Still to come, Scrap hands out his weekly award. This guy's got the proper credentials to earn the honor. Who gets the Scrap medal? And more Pride picks are ahead. We're heading into the final minutes of Nittany Game Week.
Scrap Medal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Centre County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
All right, Tom, here we go. The scrap medal. He wears number 0. Epitomizes a lot of the characteristics you look for in a player. Who you got?
We got number 0, Dominic DeLuca. Makes me happy and excited to give it to him because this guy does a lot of things for this team that go unnoticed. Not Saturday when he picked that one off and ran it back.
Yeah, he gets the pick 6 right there. Guy earned a scholarship in January. Then he gets himself a touchdown here in September. I mean, look, he steps right in and then disappears into the cheerleaders, into the madness. Great job for Dom DeLuca, right? He earns the scrap medal.
And a great guy on and off the field. Went on a mission trip to Guatemala this past May as well.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so early on, a lot of potential for this to be a special season for the Nittany Lions. Take a look at the rundown. Give us the bullets, Jay, real quick.
Well, the 3 crossover games, no real tough road trips at Northwestern, at Illinois. New quarterbacks in the Big Ten, 2 interim head coaches. The Big Ten's not as strong, and the SEC is down, so this could be a fun year.
Those are the early signs. All right, so if this was next year, look at that, Tom. Look at that rundown. That's a gauntlet in the Big Ten when you add some of those new programs like USC, Washington, and Oregon. That's crazy.
Yes, it's going to be a little bit different schedule next year.
You know a little bit about the West Coast out there,
yes,
making those trips, working out in the Pac-12.
There's a lot of different that can happen. I think that travel is going to be a factor.
Yeah, and 8 total Big Ten teams are in the top 25 if you add those 4 in, and then, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great. All right, in addition to a television show, we're bringing Nittany Lions together with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps our hometowns strong. And if you haven't noticed yet, we've got a lot to share with you when it comes to college football. It does not all fit snug into this 30-minute window. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. We finished with some pride picks. Make sure you show us your spirit. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.